Welcome back to Pedal Down 4x4, and on today's episode, we're doing diffs. Okay, welcome back you guys to another episode of Pedal Down 4x4. As the intro did say, we are going to be doing differentials today. Specifically re-gearing. So you may notice I'm in the same shirt from last episode, and that is because it is the same day. I got finished pretty early on Saturday, which is today, and I ended up cleaning the garage and I still had some time, so I ripped the old diff out of the other Tacoma axle. So this is a 411 diff. It's either 411 or 410. I'm not sure what Toyota's diffs are. I think they came in like a 3.9 and 411. And if you had a 3rd gen 4Runner with an E-locker, they came with a 430. Easy way to show what diff you have, if you have, just to give a rough estimate, I'll show you guys how to count the teeth. And then we'll go into tearing apart this diff, cleaning it up and getting it ready for the rebuild kit, as well as the 529s out of the 4Runner. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have enough time today to pull everything in and pull the diff, because I have to pull the diff out of the 4Runner as well as the Tacoma. It's gonna take kind of a bit of time, and I don't have much time left, but we still have daylight, so why not burn it? Okay, so as the title said, this is a front differential out of like a, I'm not sure exactly which truck came out of. I just bought the whole axle because I needed a new housing. This one looks to be in pretty good shape. It is a stock diff. It still has all of its bits, so that's always a good thing. Now, to tell what diff you have, it's a very simple thing. You go on to where your flange is, you take a straight line, you mark it with your white paint. You go on to your whatever it's called, your ring gear, and you're gonna mark it. So I have it marked right here. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna count the amount of turns turning this takes to make one revolution. So let's do it. So we're at 1, 2, 3. We're coming up on 4. That's 4. And then, yeah, there you go. So this is gonna be like a 410, 411 diff. Now if it was a 529, it would go an entire one more rotation plus a little bit, and then it would be a 529. So this is a stock diff. It's 411s, and it's a Toyota E-locker front diff. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean this guy up. It looks like it's in pretty good shape. I'm not sure how well this has been serviced, but I do have a kit to put in all new bearings and all that other stuff. So I'm going to start tearing down this differential, and then I'll bring you guys along the ride. Differentials are pretty easy to pull apart. It's putting them back together. That's usually the part that gives people a lot of issues. So, sorry, I have some schmutz in here. Okay, so like I said, Toyota diffs, you're going to be looking at a few different sockets, 12 and like a 17, I believe. Yeah, it's 12 and 17. So when you take apart your diff for the first time, you're gonna have these tabs. Now these tabs are locking down these adjustment screws. So you're gonna have an adjustment screw on this side, and an adjustment screw on the other side. So we're gonna take this 12, pop these guys off. Take that, so that's what it looks like. Grabs the gear, put that to the side. Zap this guy off, take that guy off, and put that one to the side as well. So that is both of those. Now we're going to take off the caps, which are these guys right here. You have one big cap, one small cap. If you have an E-locker, if you have an 8.4, which is non-E-locker, you're going to have just a solid cap, which is basically going to be as a girdle. So 17, that guy comes off, that guy comes off. Same thing with this other side, 17, 17. Now, I'm gonna go into my drawer here, give this guy a little tap, Just be careful, you don't want this thing falling off, hitting your toes. Give it a little tap. Okay, so is going to be one of your caps. That is the small cap. I'm going to go to the other side, the bigger side. I'm going to give it a tap. The guy is loose. We're going to pull that guy off. And that is going to be your large cap. Then we can simply pull out this diff. You're going to get or pull out the ring gear. You're going to get a bunch of schmutz come off. So just be careful. Watch your fingers. And there you go. Let's move this guy to the side. Oh, it's a little bit heavy. And that is your diff. So this is one of your adjustment screws. That goes on the big side. This is your other adjustment screw. This goes on the small side. You have two bearings, two large bearings. These are going to be, you know, but I don't know what holds the shit together. So these are your two races or your whatevers. Okay, so that's pretty much it on this diff. Now, if we come right here, you have a little insert. This is for the locker. So what happens is you have a little, it's called a stub shaft. It sits inside of here and it engages inside of your, you have spider gears in here. So I'm gonna inspect those because I have done diffs because of the spider gears. They look in okay shape, so that's good. So we can just take this guy, put it back on there, slide her back in. Now, to take the ring gear off, there are these tabs right here. I'm not sure how well you guys can see these tabs. Get some brake clean. All right. Now you can see the tabs a little better. So you have these little tabs. Now it is important to put these tabs back on. Whoever did the diffs in my 4Runner before I bought it didn't put the tabs back on. All these ring gear bolts loosened up, and guess what happened? Yep, destroyed the rear diff. So that's kind of why I need a new, this little e-locker unit itself, just because I need to, it's cracked in like 4 different places. So definitely not ideal, but the gears on the other hand are still good. So we're gonna still use those gears. So when it comes to this, you're gonna tap off all of these guys, tap it flat. Okay, now that all these are flat, you're gonna take, I believe it's 17, yep, still a 17, zap off all of these guys. Okay, so now that all these are gone, you're gonna take off all your bolts, take your little bolt retainer things, throw that on the side as well. Usually when you order gears, you do get new bolts, so that's always a good thing. Looks like I missed one. That comes off. So now your ring gear is free to come off. So get a large enough punch in there. You want one with a little bit of gusto. And we're gonna tap this guy off. I get into one side, give it a nice tap. Okay, so that is going to be your ring gear. So this is the 411 ring gear. Put that on the side. Maybe somebody might need a 411 ring gear. This one's still in really good shape, not much wear. So we'll put this guy on the side for now. And now you're left with your locker housing. So this is the e-locker. We'll pull these bearings off in a little bit, probably in the press. Put that on the side, and then with the pinion, sorry for it being so loud, that's your pinion gear right there. Just remember, a lot of guys want to do gearing in their trucks and whatnot. When you do gearing, the higher number you go, 529s, 488s, 538s, if you have a Dana, just remember, the higher in gearing you go, the weaker the pinion is, because it's physically smaller, right? So you're gonna have a smaller pinion. Now, I need to grab a socket that would fit this nut. These are pretty big. There we go. Okay, so now you're gonna have your pinion. Take your impact. I'm not sure if this little guy has enough gusto to take this off, but we'll find out. Milwaukee gets it done. So that's your pinion nut. Slide this guy off. This is your flange, whatever. So, and then you have your pinion. So the proper way to do this is to put it in the press and press it out. However, because I really don't give a shit about this pinion, and we're using the pinion from the other truck, I'm going to smash it out with a big ass hammer. That's why you use the proper hammer. Okay, so we got that girl out and can come out. So this is what your pinion looks like right here, pinion bearing. Then you are going to have, in a stock diff, you're going to have a crush sleeve that goes like this on your truck, like so. And then you have some other bits down here where I can show you guys in a little bit, but I think what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to clean up everything because it's oily and disgusting, and then we're going to pull out this seal because you have a pinion seal right here, and then we're going to start pulling off everything else and then get it primed up and ready for the new bits. Okay, so I pulled apart the diff. I actually have the diff housing on the side right now. I just want to show you guys this pinion. So this is your 411 pinion. It'd be the same as a 529, 488, just a different size. So you have your big bearing and your small bearing, right? Just like that. Actually, this one would be something like of this sort, something like that. But you do have this little oil slinger. It is important that you put this guy back into place. Wipe this guy off. I believe the kit does come with new oil slinger, but I guess we'll find out. Ow! What the fuck was that? Ow. Okay, anyway, so you have your little bearing here, and we're gonna just inspect this bearing. We're gonna inspect it, and you guys can see right here that it was wearing down. You can see where that groove is, where it's turning a little bit different color, and there are a little bit of pits in here. So that was wearing. I doubt the previous owner did much maintenance on their diff because most people do not. And same with this, you can see it was wearing in the inside where the bearings actually ride on, and the outside is actually very discolored. So this leads me to believe that this diff has been overheated, or they low on oil or low on whatever, but I could care less about that stuff. I don't need the bearings, I don't need the races, I don't need the pinions or the ring gear. There is one thing out of here that I do want, and I'll show you guys that right now. So this pulls out the actual bearing. So how you set this up is you're gonna set this big old honker, set this guy down, get this underneath of it like so. It's gonna squeeze tight. Now you set up your little holder majigger thing, and you're gonna drive this guy out with extreme prejudice. So take your driver, put that like that. Now it's gonna stop, and you drive it out. Bit of a punch. Okay, so just flip this guy over. Just use a bit of a punch just on the side of this guy, just to There we go. Just to pop it off. So that's your naked pinion. This is what you want. Now this is a factory shim. From my experience when doing gears, you get pretty close with this factory shim when you set the depth of your pinion. So make sure you keep this. But that's pretty much it on pulling apart a diff. The same thing can be said for this one right here. I usually just use a bearing puller and I just pull this guy off. Same with this big bearing on the other side. So that I will do later on, but as of right now, I'm gonna go eat lunch because I am hungry. So I will see you guys later. All right, you guys, so I got the new bearings on right here. Got the new big bearing, got the new little bearing. Those are all pressed onto place. And now, now my hands are all filthy, but I have the 4runner in the background. Maybe I can turn this guy so you guys can actually follow me here. So let's see if you guys can follow me all the way over here. So got the 4runner in. We're pulling out the rear diff right now, but sun's coming in. I have to actually go to dinner pretty soon, and we're just gonna wrap it up for today. I was planning on doing all this stuff next week Saturday, so it was a pretty good head start. So we should be able to finish up the diffs. All I'm gonna do when the camera turns off is pull the diff out of the 4runner, put it on the side, and then throughout the week, 30 minutes or so between my two jobs, I'm gonna just zap off the ring gear, zap off the pinion, get it ready to install, and then I'm gonna pull the differential out of the Tacoma, slap that in the 4runner, and then we are going to start building this diff. I'll show you guys how to build a diff, how to set backlash, how to set your gear pattern, all that stuff. So yeah, I'll see you guys next Saturday. It'll be the same video, but I'm gonna cut it right here. I actually have to I need to download this SD card because I only have about 9 minutes of footage left I can film. So I need to download that footage onto the computer or on my hard drive, and then I can take out all of this, free up the space back on this SD card. So yeah, I'll see you guys Saturday. Okay, so today is Thursday. I do have to go to work in a little bit, but I figure I'd show you guys some of the stuff. This is the 529 ring gear out of the 3rd gen 4runner. This is the 529 ring and pinion, or not ring and pinion. This is the 529 pinion out of the 3rd gen 4runner. This is the kit. This is has all the stuff in it and whatnot, or whatever you want to call it. So we're gonna get this ring gear on top of this carrier. So what I do is it has a lot of oil on it because I sprayed it with oil because obviously I'm going to be doing most of this stuff on Saturday. Wipe off all this smuts. You want none of that on there. Now this part's kind of a pain. You need to line this thing up pretty perfect. Can't really be off. So, and then also before you do this, what I've done before, and see, I'm gonna have to do it again because it has, looks like schmutz on it, which is perfect because I can show you guys what I'm talking about. So I'll be right back. Let me grab a file. Whenever you get a new ring gear pinion, you're doing gearing, what you want to do is you want to file the surface. So you take a file of whatever. Now when I put in this ring gear, I guess some of the red Loctite did come out. You want to get any high spots down. So I usually just do this, and this is going to get rid of any of the high spots. So this is going to run that through a little bit of, this has brake clean in it because the I broke the nozzle. So you just want to run this along, and this will knock down any of the flats, any of the high spots on this ring gear. So that is nice and smooth. So now I throw a little bit of oil on it. This is kind of redundant, you don't really need to do this part, but I run oil on it and then I do it all one direction and then I switch the direction. So you'll see what I mean. Okay, so now that that's basically done, take some rubbing out, or take your brake clean, which this is not rubbing alcohol, this is brake clean in this bottle. I didn't want to waste, but now you'll see it's perfectly smooth. We don't have any kind of shit in there. Take your air hose. If I had more brake clean, I would spray directly into there, but all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the air hose, stuff it in each one of these holes, and give it a little blow so all the schmutz comes out, and then we'll get to installing this ring gear on this carrier. Okay, so we have our air hose. All I'm gonna do is blow this out. Okay, so now that that's done, what I do is I just take a little rag, wipe this guy down. And I've already verified this, but I'd usually take each ring gear bolt and I just screw them in. Just make sure they all go in clearly, or go in without resistance, which I've done already. You're gonna take your carrier. Now, some guys, which I've done this in the past as well, I torch the ring gear to get it hot enough to just try to slide on. And that works, it does work. It makes it a little easier. But with the amount of brake clean on this table, if I was to do that, it would send myself to the moon. I'll be like Elon Musk, straight to the moon. So, what I do is I start lining up all the bolts, holes, and once I know that they are pretty much lined up, which they are, yeah, that's pretty much good. And I just take a soft blow hammer and I slowly work this guy on. So there's my little hammer, and I just start tapping on each side. Okay, so now that's flat. So what I usually do is once you start getting it in, I throw a couple bolts in. It'll align everything. Don't tighten it down. But you can see all these bolts in here are all in now. So now I can go ahead and take my socket. Just make sure they go down freely. Okay, so these are pretty much all good. So now I'm gonna zap all these bolts back off again. I'm gonna clean them out, clean each hole out, throw a little bit of this whatchamacallit in there, brake clean, shoot out all the holes again, and apply red Loctite, and we're gonna go ahead and zap all these guys on. Okay, so normally you would want to use red Loctite for this. I unfortunately only have blue Loctite. Now, that would be a cause of concern for myself before doing this. However, I have these. And in my opinion, you probably don't even need Loctite if you have these washers on there. Okay, now that we got all the air out, we're gonna put all of our little lock washing tab things in. In my opinion, now, if you're a professional diff builder and you're like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, you're probably right. But I have built quite a few diffs and they've never failed. Well, I've blown diffs up, but that wasn't due to my install, that was due to my driving. But anyway, I think if you have these, you don't even need to use Loctite. Now, when I look at the factory bolts, it doesn't look like they have Loctite on them. But we're gonna apply a little bit of Loctite to each one of these bolts. Start the bolt. Now I'm gonna do this to every single bolt. So now we have the bolts with Loctite on. We're gonna give them a little zap. Now whenever I do this, I go from separate sides. Okay, so you can see this I got loose. What I like to do after I do that, I give her a couple thwacks with the hammer. Soft blow, by the way. That's just to ensure that it's fully seated down. Now, these ring gear bolts are torqued, I believe, to 70 or 80 foot-pounds. Whenever you are doing gearing, they usually send you one of these little pamphlet booklets. Now, this will show you the torque specs and all your other specifications that you want on your truck. So if I look down to here and I go to Toyota and I go to 8-inch, we're at 70 pounds. So, yep, 70 pounds. So I'm gonna torque this up to 70 foot-pounds in a crisscross pattern. Okay, so once you're at this point of your build, now it's all torqued, I have it all marked down, of your ring gear, what you're gonna do now is you're gonna start tapping these tabs back up. So remember, these tabs is like your last line of defense, in my opinion. Now, diff builders might disagree, whatever, I don't give a shit. Suck my nuts. But when you're pulling these tabs in, what happens is it creates a mechanical lock. There we go. So this is what I mean. So you can kind of see it right here. I'm not sure if you guys can see, but right here, this tabs will prevent it from spinning. So I'm gonna do that to the rest of this, and then the ring gear is completely done. New bearings, front, big side, small side, 529 ring gear. We are good to go. We don't have to touch this anymore. So I'm gonna make all these guys touch each other, be friends, and then we're gonna move on to the pinion. I'll see you guys in a little bit. Okay, so got all the bits. They are all nicely done up. So we don't have to touch this ring gear anymore. So this is your almighty pinion. This is what's turning your ring gear. Now, this one has a couple shims. That's because that is what I used on the other diff. But you cannot just use those shims. You don't know what exactly, you don't know if that's gonna be exactly perfect for your case. So what I did was I took the old one. This is our old ring gear little pinion spacer thing. Slide that guy on. Okay, simple enough. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna take this. This is your pinion bearing. This is gonna go on like this, and that's gonna get driven onto the pinion with great force. I'm gonna do that in the 20-ton press, and then after that, this is a solid pinion spacer. The solid pinion spacer is a worthwhile upgrade. However, it is a pain in the butt. What I mean by that is you don't, so here, hold on. This is a crush spacer. This is what usually goes on like that. It sets the preload on your bearings. Great, good, cool, awesome. Problem with these are sometimes, and there are times where these will lose tension, and they will actually lose tension and will cause your bearings to lose that preload. It's gonna cause some weird sounds. So what you do is you take your whatever pinion spacer you have. So this is obviously a new one. I'm gonna go look at the old one. I measure that. I try to match it up as closely with this guy. And then you take shims, like these little shims here. And this is my shim stack from the other one. And you put shims on it. You put it on like that. You crush it down with great force when you have your other bearing and stuff like this. And that is gonna set your pinion preload. Once this is locked in and torqued, once the pinion nut's torqued, this won't crush. This is solid. That's why they call it a solid pinion spacer. And this is a crush spacer. So I'm gonna press this guy on, but I think that's gonna be it for right now. I do have to get ready for my other job and go to work. So I'm gonna leave this. I'm gonna just spray this with some more of my famous Rem oil so it doesn't rust. And then I will get back to you guys on Saturday when we start assembling the pinion into the diff housing. So I'll see you guys later. Okay everybody, good morning. It is now Saturday. Well, it's not really morning time, it is the afternoon. But really quick, before we get started, I have installed the bearing onto the pinion, as well as, I'm not sure if you can see, but there is this little, that stock spacer in there. Let me clean this up. Okay, so like I said, I just cleaned this up a little bit, but I have the pinion bearing on it. I have the stock shim. Now this is out of the other diff. I've installed the bearings on the inside, or not the bearing, but the races on the in and the out, so the small side and the big side. So now, this is where we're gonna do a little math. So, which I've already done so. You're gonna take one of these are little, it's a little caliper thingamajig. You're gonna measure your millimeters. So what you're measuring for is, this is the new crush spacer. You're gonna turn your dial caliper on, whatever, zero it out, and then you're gonna take a measurement of this. So this one is 49.2. Now I measured the old one, and the old one right here, I'm not sure if you can see, but it measured out to 47.20. That's millimeters, or yeah, millimeters, 47.20. Next thing I did is I measured this distance right here on the solid pinion spacer, and the measurement I got out to was 46. Now, that's when you have to start measuring different shims. So, when you measure shims, you need to measure a few things. So, these two shims I measured out to be, this one is 0.70 of a millimeter, this is 0.40 of a millimeter. You add that together, you add that together, and you're gonna get 47.10. Now, if you do that, that means you are 0.10 of a millimeter off. You're gonna take into, you need to take into fact that when you do take off the pinion, this will expand ever so slightly. So this should get us within the ballpark of where we need to be on our pinion, or on our pinion bearing preload. All right, so the next thing you're gonna do is, I usually throw just a little bit of some sort of lubricant. You don't want it to run it dry, but you don't want to use thick oil because it will take up some space. So I just take some WD-40 and spray this shit on here. This is the right way, I don't know, it's the way I've done it. Put that pinion in. That pinion will now come up through here. I don't know if this affects it, whatnot, but this little oil spacer, but I usually just throw it on. Well, that's not even gonna fit, so that's even better. Did this one not have one? All right, well that's sick. What the, huh, that's very interesting. I didn't even realize, but this won't even fit on here. I'm probably gonna just have to grind this out a little bit. I'll do that real quick with the Dremel, and then I'll get back to you guys. I'm gonna just make this a little bit wider. Okay, so I took the Dremel and I just kind of ran it, sanded it clean, so now it's nice and flush. So that's gonna sit just like that. That's your oil slinger, so you're gonna want to make sure you put that back in. Take your drive flange, put that over. Okay, so once you have your pinion on, right, it's kind of loose, you're gonna take a socket and we're gonna drive this guy in. Okay, so I can already tell that this is too tight. That's right, so I can't turn this. The pinion is too tight, so we're gonna add probably this other shim and see if that loosens it up. So I'm gonna add the shim to the pinion, and then we're going to test it again. I'm gonna push this guy out, and I'll come right back to you guys. Okay, so I pulled the pinion off 2 times. The first time it was too loose, or it was way too tight, so I put in a 0.2 or 0.15 shim in it, and then it was a little too loose. When I spun it, it was free spinning. So I then took everything back apart. Instead of the 0.40 shim, I threw in a 0.35, and I got it to exactly where it needs to be. So, and you're gonna hear a little bit of bearing noise just because there's no oil in it, but that's what you want. You want to be able to spin it freely, but you don't want it to do this and it just keep going, right? And obviously you want to be able to spin it freely and not it be too tight. So this is exactly where I want the diff at. I'm gonna set you guys back up, and we're gonna start dropping in the carrier into the housing, and then we're gonna start setting backlash, and then we'll check for pattern. I'm hoping that the shim, the original shim, is gonna get us really close, if not dead on. So we'll find out. I'll see you guys in a little bit. Okay, so we have our housing pretty much dialed for the pinion. Well, we won't find out until a little bit later, but we can now flip this guy up. It's always a bit of a pain in the ass to do this by yourself, just because, or not by yourself, but if you have the correct like a diff holding tool mechanism thing. That's one thing I do want to buy, because I build diffs quite a bit for other people, as well as I break my shit all the time, so I tend to go through this quite a bit. Guy in here. Okay, now this is the pain in the ass part. So I'm gonna take my bearing caps, and we're gonna put these on. So this is usually a gigantic, see, this is why it's a pain in the ass, because I forget about this all the time. Sorry, my bad, you guys. Every time I forget to do this. Because of the e-locker in this truck, you need to actually put this in with the assembly, which makes it very annoying. Wrong side. Get that side in there. We need to fit this up. I guess I had some schmutz in the threads. Oh, see, there we go. Now it's much better. Make sure you clench your threads, boys. Okay, so make sure this side's tight. Now you're gonna be able to hear it. You hear that? That's gonna be your backlash. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to set up a dial micrometer, or this is a dial micrometer. What I do is I set this guy up like this. It's magnetic. And then you're gonna set your little dial here. And I'm going to have it like this. Okay, so you can see our dial micrometer. Now, I believe for the Toyota you want around 6 thou. See, that's only about 3 thou. Yeah, about 2.5, 3 thou. What do you do to get this set up correctly? Now that you need more, what you can do is, maybe I can do this while it's filming. I'm gonna loosen up this side, right? Once you loosen up that side a little bit, I can tighten in this side. And that is gonna bring the actual ring gear closer out. Gave me 12 thou, so that was way too much. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go back. I'm gonna loosen this guy up a little bit. Try and do this on camera. Okay, loosen that guy up just a smidge. See how much that little difference made? That's 20 thou. So this is why it can be a little bit of a pain in the ass. So I'm gonna loosen this guy up. Okay, so I went back through just a little bit, did some tweaking on the Backlash and all that other whatchamacallits. So we're now perfect at about, well, not perfect, we're sitting right at the edge at 10. I am more than happy with 10. So now we have to check our gear pattern. This is either gonna ruin my day or make me a very happy camper. First things first, as always, clean up this guy off. If you ever buy a diff and then you see, like, why is there this yellow mark? That is your gear pattern. You want your gears to be meshing a certain way. You can also do this with grease, by the way. You can put grease in it and then you can read the gear pattern using grease. So that should be enough to us to get a gear pattern. Now I'm going to take this guy, get it in here, there where the pinion's at, and now I'm going to put pressure on our ring gear, run it forward, run it back. Okay, let's see if we can read this. Okay, so this is looking really good actually. So when you have your book, let me see if you guys can see this book. Oh, here we go. Heel, your drive, your concave or coast or whatever. When you do get your book, it'll show you acceptable patterns right here. So these are all acceptable. Pinion is too close, whatnot, and the heel. Now, if I'm looking at this right now, we are dead set, basically perfect. And let me show you guys. So we are basically perfect right in the middle of those. And then we are basically perfect, a little bit high, but that is good enough for me. So we are pretty much done with this diff. There are a few more things that we need to do. We need to pop these caps back off and put red Loctite in them. What I do is I usually pop one bolt, throw red Loctite, drive it in, pop the next one off, put red Loctite, drive that guy in. And then on this guy right here, we're gonna zap this guy back off and we're gonna insert one of these seals, whichever one fits our application, because of different size pinions. One's for a stock pinion and one is for a modified pinion. And then our differential is done. So let me do that. I'll show you guys the final product and we're good to go. We can slap this diff into the Tacoma. All right, you guys, so I have finished building the diff. I've also shaved my face so I look like a child. But real quick, off camera, I've torqued each of the cap bolts to 70 foot-pounds. I have then put in the clip holder things that hold the whatever they're called, that sets your preload and your backlash. I have pulled off this flange, pulled the flange off, drove in a new seal, and I've reinstalled everything, torqued this nut to 250 foot-pounds. And when you do this and it becomes tighter, don't worry. It's also because you're fighting the ring gear, you know, the carrier bearings, the seal is now touching. So it'll be a little bit tougher to spin, but you guys can see that this guy spins nice and smooth. So that is basically how to build a Toyota 8-inch rear diff, E-locker, 8.4, 10.5, 9.5, whatever diff you have for a Toyota. That's basically how to do this style. Hopefully you guys found this useful on how to build a diff for your truck. And that's basically it. I've thrown a little bit of gear oil on here to lubricate the bearings and whatnot. And for these diffs, I tend to run a thicker gear oil in the break-in procedure. This doesn't really need to be broken in because it already has a few thousand miles on this ring gear and pinion, but the bearings are new. So I tend to run a thicker gear oil just in case there's any metal shavings. It has a little bit of protection and pulls out any of that schmutz. But yeah, hopefully this video you guys found helpful in how to build a diff, or if you're attempting this yourself, or if you want to just know how a diff is built. That's basically all we have for this week. So I'll see you guys next week. Hopefully by then we can start driving the truck. I'm not sure. I'm still waiting for the new radiator to come in, and I need to torque everything down on the truck and set the final height of the Oris. But all that stuff is just boring stuff. I need to show you guys that. But that's basically it for this week. Like always, thanks for watching.